Hello, everyone, and welcome to Career Q&A with All Faith Children's Advocacy Center. I am your host, Vanessa Garzon, and we're here with our Intern Supervisor, Sam Williams. All Faiths has been a part of the Albuquerque community since 1956, growing and changing, but always abiding by our mission that we are the trusted advocates for children and families that have been affected by trauma. I'm proud to say that as an organization, we are constantly evolving and changing with our community's needs and have so many wonderful programs. Career Q&A is an opportunity to spotlight these amazing programs and talk to someone from all faiths, and we always encourage people to ask questions. So joining us today is Sam Williams, LCSW, who serves as the Intern Supervisor at All Faiths Children's Advocacy Center. Sam, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. So Sam, could you please give us an overview of All Faiths Children's Advocacy Center and its mission in supporting children and families through a trauma-sensitive lens?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, All Faiths has been around for a long, long time. And over that time, we've done so many different things. We've had a receiving home, we've done some daycare stuff, we've done so many things. And all during that time, there's still been this focus on helping kids that have experienced some really awful things, that have trauma, really. And All Faiths really uses a broad definition of trauma. When we think about trauma, I think a lot of times that big, that capital T trauma comes to mind, of abuse or witnessing a crime, or just those things that come to mind when we're thinking, oh, wow, I hope I never have to go through something like that, right? But really what trauma is that when something happens to us, that it leaves a lasting impact on us that is negative. Our body's kind of response to that is really what the trauma is. That is what it is that we're treating, is that after effect of something bad that's happened to us. And that could really be any number of things. Of course, it can be that abuse or neglect or witnessing crimes or having someone die or things like that. But it also can be moving. It can be experiencing bullying. It can be something that we frequently see, having your parents get divorced. It could be your best friend moving away. It can be so many different things. And when these things happen to us, sometimes it makes it difficult for us to continue to focus on our school or to do the things that we used to do to take care of ourselves, just our basic needs. And those are the things that we really work with clients and families on to help them get back to what it looks like for them to be healthy and normal. And really, we kind of think about trauma-sensitive care and trauma-sensitive, approaches by thinking, instead of the question of what's wrong with you, which is so many times what we say when we see some kid acting out, or we see somebody not completing their schoolwork or things like that, we're usually like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why can't you just do whatever? And really, having that trauma-sensitive lens turns that question around and says, you know what, actually, what happened to you? What was going on in your life that has made it where it's difficult to show up in the way that you want to show up, or maybe in the way that we expect people to be able to show up? And so that is what we focus on here at All Faiths. That's what we work with kids and families on here at All Faiths, is thinking about what has happened and now what are some skills and some just some supports we can give you to get you back to where you want to be.
So Sam, what can master's level students expect from the internship program at All Faiths Children's Advocacy Center? Can you walk us through the structure and the opportunities that are available for interns?
Yeah, absolutely. So really, what I tell any master's level student that comes to have an interview with us, they're interested in interning with us, I tell them that we really want for them to get some hands-on experience. That is one of the big things that we are trying to provide to really the up-and-coming therapists and counselors and social workers in our community. And so that means that they will get to observe various different providers working with the families that they have on their own caseloads, which gives that opportunity to see how we work with different ages. So that could be like a teenager with one person or a 5-year-old with somebody else, or anywhere in between. And it also gives the intern an opportunity to see different kinds of treatment modalities. So some of our therapists really love doing different kinds of play therapy. Some might use art. Some might do more of that kind of traditional talk therapy we might kind of see and think of when we think of therapy. And so those opportunities for observation really gives an intern a moment to sit in a session and take in what's happening without the pressure of having to be the one running that session. And then after they've had some time to go through those observations, then we help them build a caseload. And usually those caseloads are about 4 to 6 clients during the entirety of the time with us. And so it's pretty manageable. And we are always making sure that they have support as well. And that support looks like individual supervision with me. We do an hour of supervision a week, but I also try to make myself available throughout the rest of the time, because again, this is a learning experience, right? So interns wouldn't be expected to know everything right away. And then we also provide some of that support through group supervision. And we have 2 different kinds of group supervision. We have our big group supervision, which includes all of our clinical team, which includes therapists, of course. It includes community support workers and case managers. It includes our care coordinators and our wraparound facilitators. And we all get together. And sometimes we have a 2-hour training on a topic that is kind of meaningful to our clients. Sometimes that is us learning about different resources that are in the community. Sometimes that is supervisors sharing some interventions that we've used in our practice with families, and talking through situations that maybe are coming up with a lot of the families that multiple providers are seeing. So that way we can provide that support. That time also gives us kind of an opportunity to do some teaming as well. We love having treatment teams. It's so helpful to not be the only person working with a family sometimes. And so we can use that big group time to consult with each other and figure out how we can support each other in our work with the family or the client that we share. And then if we're not doing a big group supervision, then we do small group supervision. And that's when we really get into our teams. And so for an intern, what they would be able to expect is that they would be put into a small group that has generally no more than 10 therapists. Most of the time it's smaller than that, but definitely no more than 10 therapists. And that's a time to get together to do more of that small group supporting of each other. There's a lot of case staffing that happens during that time. There's sometimes, again, sharing of interventions and different questions that might come up. Sometimes it's coming to a group of people that do the same kind of work you do and talking about the fact that, you know what, I'm really struggling right now with this. How can we help support each other? And so that's a really great opportunity for interns, I think, as well, both to see what a case staffing looks like and then also to get that support during a stressful time, for sure.
Wow, those are incredible opportunities for interns. Just a vast variety from supervision to meetings and just being able to be walked through that process. That's incredible. You've mentioned the extensive training that an intern will go through during this internship at All Faiths. How do you weave in the trauma-informed approach into the training process?
Absolutely. I think that's a great question. And we do that a couple of different ways. I think during an internship, really all of it is training, right? From the really the beginning of it and just knowing that you're going to be working with clients and and that process of learning how to work with them. And then there's also really more formal trainings as well. And so we definitely have that formal and informal training process with all of our interns. And so to start kind of with our formal training process, and where we really start thinking about that trauma sensitive care right away, is that all of our interns are asked to go through a web-based, self-paced training on trauma-focused CBT or TFCBT. And that is something, again, that we have really all of our therapists do. And so just like I mentioned before, we really want our interns to have that experience of being a therapist. And so they also get to go through that training as one of the initial things. I think usually we ask for our interns to go through that training within the first couple of weeks. But then we also have some other required trainings that, again, just like we require them of all of our therapists, we require them of our interns as well. And one of the ones in particular that I think is really helpful for that trauma sensitive care is the trauma sensitive lens training that our director of the Training Institute provides and actually really developed for us. And that training is, I think, a really wonderful introduction to what trauma sensitive care really is, and that it's not necessarily what is the best intervention that I can do, and really how can I help this client realize that they can have safe relationships again, and realize, and I guess really find those ways to regulate themselves or to be able to regulate with other people, because we know that trauma mostly impacts our abilities to have good relationships and our ability to regulate ourselves. And so our intervention that we teach is really, how do you build a good relationship? How do you build that therapeutic rapport? And how do you help your clients regulate themselves and learn how to regulate themselves? Or how do you help parents learn how to help their kids regulate when they're feeling stressed, when they're feeling overwhelmed, when they have a breakdown or anything like that. So those two trainings in particular are really focused on that trauma piece. In addition, though, and this is kind of my favorite part of the training process on trauma sensitive care, is that in supervision and individual supervision in particular, that is definitely a time to bring any of the struggles or things that you're running into with your own clients that you're working with to somebody to get some consultation, to get some advice about how to move forward. And that is when, again, there can be those reminders of, have we thought about how these things that this client and family have gone through is impacting these behaviors that we see, that we're trying to help them through. And so that's more of that informal training on trauma sensitive care, of where you've learned, some of the research, you've learned some of those techniques or interventions from TFCBT, but now how does that get applied in the real world kind of thing? Because that is the benefit, I think, of internships, is being able to take all of that theory and all of that knowledge and put it into practice. And so that's really how we're able to weave that trauma sensitive care training and also give them the ability to practice trauma sensitive care, so that they can take that with them in their future practice.
What are the key requirements and expectations for interns during their time at All Faiths? And how does the internship program prepare them for future roles in clinical practice?
Absolutely. So right now, some of our key requirements, of course, if we're thinking about who's going to be applying, is going to be that they are either a second year MSW student, or that they are a master's in counseling student who is willing to do their practicum semester with us and both of their internship semesters with us. So that's some of that just requirement about where they are in their studies. And largely that's because, again, we really want them to have that experience of working with clients directly. And so they need that more foundational knowledge that they gain in their first year as a MSW student and in their earlier classes as a master's in counseling student. And then we also have some expectations about, again, completing those trainings that we have as requirements for everyone, that trauma-sensitive lens training, the TFCBT training, and then several others as well. And then also, we want to see that interns that come to us are going to be able to attend those group supervision times, that they're going to be able to give some of their internship hours to us during the afternoons, because we work with kids and kids go to school. And so they usually like those after school appointments. And so that's really some of those, I guess, key requirements and expectations as far as just initial things to get you in the door as far as an application goes. And then to think about how this will help prepare interns for their future roles. I think that the more that I'm involved in healthcare in the state of New Mexico, and that of course includes mental health, the more I realize how special of a state New Mexico is, particularly in the population that we serve and in the struggles that our communities have here. We are a very poor state, and we know that poverty is one of the biggest social determinants of health. We have folks with so much generational trauma. We have so many things that sometimes feel like they're stacked against people in New Mexico. We also have a lot of wealth here and a lot of that internal resiliency. So I don't want to say that we don't, but there are definitely some real challenges here. And so one of the things that I think is great about being an intern at All Faiths is that you get such a foundation on how to provide trauma-sensitive care that it's not going to matter where you go after this. It's not going to matter who you work with after this. And again, that's whether you're within New Mexico or whether you move to a different state, it's not going to matter, because you've gotten that really great trauma-sensitive foundation here at All Faiths that you're going to know to take that question with you of what happened to you instead of what's wrong with you, right? You're going to know that to help people really heal through their trauma, we have to be thinking about relationship and we have to be thinking about regulation. And so those are some of those pieces that you're going to get to take with you no matter where you go after your internship with us. And then the other part that I think is also really beneficial is that most of the time when we're in school, we learn how to work with adults. When we think about the stereotypical therapy experience, it's usually somebody sitting in a couch while somebody else is sitting at their desk and they're just having this conversation back and forth, and it's that talk therapy stuff, right? But kids can't really do that. For kids, their communication skills are really based in play, and play can sometimes be a really tricky thing to provide therapy with if you don't understand what that process is like for them. And so in addition to telling people that if you can work in New Mexico, you can work anywhere, I also tell people all the time, if you can learn how to work with kids, then you can work with anyone. Because again, we all kind of know how to have those conversations that we think of when we think of traditional talk therapy. And then to be able to build play onto that, or to build how art can be used onto that, or just these things that we have to kind of get out of the box and be creative with kids, that's going to benefit your practice, again, regardless of what population you choose to serve in the future as well.
So I have a two-part question for you. So can you firstly share some challenges that interns might encounter in their roles here at All Faiths? And then on the flip side, what are some of the most rewarding aspects of being an intern here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd definitely be happy to. I think there are definitely a few challenges that might come up as an intern is working here with us at All Faiths. And I definitely don't want to pretend that there aren't or sugarcoat them or anything like that, because they're real. And one of those biggest challenges is that you're going to be exposed to trauma, and you're especially going to be exposed to hearing about childhood trauma. Sometimes when people ask me what I do, I tell them that, all of those horrible news stories you see on the TV on the 10 o'clock news where you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe somebody went through this. Well, there's almost always a child that's impacted by that as well, whether the news reports on that or not. There's almost always a kid that's impacted by that as well. And it all fits. Those are the kids that we see. And so that's some heavy stuff to be told. That's some heavy stuff to kind of carry and to hold for others. It's definitely rewarding to be able to do that, but it's hard as well. We often say here that anybody who works here, whether you're employed here and doing front desk work or finance work, or you're doing the clinical work, or you're an intern with us learning all of this for the first time, you're going to be what we call swimming in a pool of trauma. You're just going to be covered with it because that is the work that we do here. And so because of this risk of being exposed to trauma and then experiencing our own vicarious trauma, sometimes that can also cue up some of our own past trauma for us. And it can make it where we have to do some work for ourselves too, and figure out how can I continue to show up and help the people that I'm working with, even though I also am having some strong reactions about this. And then in addition to that, which is kind of a big enough challenge, right? But in addition to that, we do frequently work with families who are in the middle of custody disputes. And sometimes those can be so draining as well. And they can bring up some very real and very challenging feelings that we have to work through in order to continue to be there for our clients and their families, and especially to continue to approach our clients and families with that empathy and unconditional positive regard that all of the people we work with deserve. So those are some of the challenges that an intern might experience working with us. But again, I think doing this work is super rewarding. We can see what happens when a breakthrough with a family happens, and there's some healing there, and there's some repair work between a parent and a child, or when parents are able to figure out how to co-parent together, even if they have this custody dispute going on. We can see the resiliency of kids, and we can see how much being a person for them can really help them in so many ways. I know I have plenty of my own stories of just being in awe of how well my clients have been able to heal from some of the stuff that they've brought to our sessions together. And then I also want to continue to plug the amount of fantastic support that an intern will get here. I may be a little biased, but I feel like we have some of the best clinical supervision that you can find. All of our supervisors are available to support anybody and everybody that works here, honestly, and really help them through their feelings that come up, help them figure out what interventions to use, all kinds of things. And so I feel like our supervision really is top notch. And our clinical team is as well. I know that I've also had interns in the past talk about how rewarding it's been to be able to work with some of the clinicians that we have here on staff and learn from them as well, and just that they've been able to gain so much experience and knowledge from them too. And then, of course, you're going to get that hands-on experience. You're going to build some confidence in your skills. You'll learn about yourself. And you'll, of course, learn about that trauma-sensitive care as well.
So before we wrap up, Sam, could you share details about how interested students can apply for these internship opportunities? And what should they include in their application to make a strong impression?
Yeah. So if you are looking to apply for an internship with us, which we are very excited if you are, you can go to our website and find our internship application. And that's just allfaiths.org. And you'll find, like I said, the internship application there. And then once you've completed this, you will want to send that application along with your current resume and a letter of interest to internship@allfaiths.org. And then after you submit your application, your resume, and your letter of interest, we'll review them and reach out to you to schedule an interview. So that's really what that application process looks like. And then we just really want to see that you're willing to learn. We want to see that you have some humility. We want to see that you have that empathy that we all really want in therapists, right? We want to see that you have a passion for doing some of this work. A curiosity and some openness to new ideas can also be really big, indicators that you might be a good fit for this position as well. And then we also know that, again, as I've been talking about, the ways that we behave and what we do oftentimes is influenced by things outside of our innate personalities or who we are as people. And they really come from our experiences, what's happened to us, the families that we live in, the systems that we have to deal with every day. And so it is also a really wonderful thing if you're able to kind of talk with us a little bit about how you understand how those things can impact a person's behavior.
Looking ahead, Sam, what are the future directions for the internship program at All Faiths? Are there any new initiatives or even developments on the horizon that prospective interns should be aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something I'm very excited about personally. Right now, we are undergoing a period of significant growth in the agency. We are currently in the process of really expanding the services that we're able to provide and kind of gearing up to be able to start providing some adult outpatient services, some substance use disorder services, and some veteran services. And so we're hoping that with this growth in our programs in general, that we're also then able to start offering internships in more than just our family and children's therapy department. We are in the very beginning stages of figuring out exactly what that looks like. So we don't necessarily have a timeline yet of when these opportunities will be available. But we're really excited about the opportunity to offer more experiences and more opportunities to students that have a desire to work with other populations besides just kids and families that also really deserve that trauma-sensitive care that we are so known for giving in the community. So definitely keep looking at what opportunities we have available as you're thinking about applying, especially as you're thinking about, hey, I'm going to need to apply in a year or two. So what are those opportunities going to look like at that point? Definitely check us out and see what we've got going on.
All right. Well, Sam, thank you so much for sharing such valuable insights into the clinical internship program here at All Faiths Children's Advocacy Center. We appreciate your time and expertise. For everyone that's watching and who's interested in learning more or even applying, please visit All Faiths website at www.allfaiths.org or contact Sam Williams directly. And finally, special thanks to our Director of Marketing and producer, Regina Alderete. Without her brilliance and collaboration, none of this would be possible. So Sam, thank you so much for your time and sharing us just a piece of your world. And thank you everyone for your time and attention. Tune in next time on Career Q&A.